Okay, well, the first thing I'd like to say is that I find a lot of people are under a delusion when it comes to Mercedes. The moment they see the three-pointed star of the Mercedes medallion, they immediately assume it's going to be a good car. Well, first of all, let's get that one out the window, because that is not true. You do get bad Mercedes, and I'm about to explain why. This car, although it's not a bad Mercedes, it is nothing more really than what a very well put together Mondeo would be like, or should be like. 0 to 60 test now. That's 60. Okay, let's start with the basics. The rear view vision is not bad. The headrests don't block the vision too much. Wing mirrors are a nice size, maybe a little bit too low, but I think that's probably a minor detail. Instrument cluster is clear and not obstructed by the steering wheel. Center console, although bland, is very easy to operate, and that can be operated whilst driving without taking your wheels off the road. What I do like about Mercedes is the indicator spoke, the high beam spoke, and the well, basically everything's all on one spoke, which at first can be a bit confusing, but once you get familiar with it, it's very, very simple. This is the 6-speed manual with the usual foot brake, pull brake, handbrake situation set up. Now, the interior of the car is extremely bland, too much plastic, and I must say cheap, nasty plastic too. It's like it's made out of recycled biros. It's got a real shitty feel to it, to be fair. The steering is nice and light and responsive though, and I must admit I don't feel like I'm feeling power steering. I feel like I'm connecting with the actual road, which is good, because although this isn't a sporty vehicle, it does have a real nice feel with the steering, and considering it's not mega miles, this car, it's nice to see that the steering is rather good on it. And if you had a sporty engine in it, this would be a real entertaining car. It's certainly a comfortable car, but this one is not a luxurious model. The upholstery on the seats, it just looks like something out of office furniture. It's drab and it's mundane and it's awful. Now, coming up to a bit more speed now. We're only doing 60, but I can slide into 6th gear now. Turn that radio off. 6th gear, and it's beautiful, lovely and quiet. Hardly any road noise under the car at all. If I give the car a bit of a wiggle, it doesn't roll as such, but it does meander and boat about. So I wouldn't want to do an emergency swerve in this vehicle. And personally, if I was going to buy a car like this, I would definitely go for a sports suspension, because you don't want a car that's just going to be counter-affecting every movement you make. It's a very smooth ride, this, very nice sound. All I can hear basically is the other cars going by, so that sort of thing does remind you that you're in a Mercedes. But the interior of this car is just revolting. It really is. This car feels like it's built with no zest or soul. It's lacking spirit. It's almost like it's a clone of another vehicle. It's really dreadful. But what it lacks in personality and appearance, I suppose, it makes up for in its driving. It's not an entertaining car to drive, but you can tell it's well put together. It feels like if this car was well maintained, it could last a few years, a lot longer than its counterparts, put it that way. The brakes, oddly enough, are a little bit grabby for a Mercedes, and I have to say that's probably one of the first times I've experienced that. Normally the brakes on Mercedes are fantastic and they perfectly balanced, and you can apply a gradual pressure, but not with this particular car. I think what we have here is a budget Mercedes, and I'm glad we're doing this review, because as I was saying at the beginning, people see the medallion at their front and they think Mercedes, it must be palatial, it must be fantastic, it must be a wonderful drive. Well, I think with a Mercedes you're guaranteed a good drive and you're guaranteed reasonable build quality, but not every Mercedes is a posh ride, you know. This one certainly isn't. It's very crude. So if you're thinking about buying a Mercedes and it's the first time you've done it, you're better off taking a few for a test drive, because I think you will be quite surprised.